HerStory is a game for 2 to 5 players from designers Daniel Reynolds, Emerson Matsuuchi, and Nick Bentley, who is also a developer with publisher Underdog Games. This publisher debuted in the 2010s with Trekking the National Parks. It has also released Trekking the World and Trekking Through History, and its goal is to release games with a straightforward rule set that can be played by people of pretty much any age, competing at roughly the same level, but with an element where if you're paying attention and have some strategy, you can probably do a little bit better than anyone who is just playing more casually. So, family level game. You can explain the rules in just a couple of minutes, and I will do so now. Here are the components of HerStory set up and ready to play. You have a central market that features 6 research tokens drawn at random from the bag of 52. You have a deck of 120 chapter cards. You shuffle the deck, lay out 5 at random. Each player gets their own desk where they will assemble research tokens and chapter cards, both those in draft form and final chapters, as they work towards a completed biography. When a player has placed the 8th chapter in their book, you finish the round, and then everyone tallies their points to see who wins. On a turn, you take one of 3 actions shown on your player aid. You can take a research token from the market and place it on your desk. You are investigating in some manner. You don't have to say who you're devoting this research to yet. You're interviewing people, you're looking up stuff, you're searching closely, reading about people, you're finding out information. It's generic research right now. You can call dibs on someone. You can imagine this being a publishing house that says, we're looking for biographies on these 5 women. You can draft someone, and only you can write about this person now. No one else can do it. These are all up for grabs at the moment. When you draft someone, you score 2 points. You're committing yourself, and therefore you get a small reward. You're also locking one of the places on your desk because you can have at most 2 chapters in draft form at any one time. Refill this. You can, once you have enough research, write about someone, finish that chapter, and put them into your book. You need to spend research at least as many tokens as is shown on the side of each of these people, each of these chapter cards. So if I get an additional magnifying glass, light bulb, and speech bubble, I can write about Maria Tharp, put her in my book. I will score 1 point for doing so. That's not much, but she has a special power that might be useful to me. If you can pay for the cost of a chapter exactly, for example, if you end up drafting these 3 tokens, you can write about Madam C.J. Walker, you have exactly 2 books, 2 magnifying glasses, 2 speech bubbles, boom, you get the points in the corner plus 3 extra points for being exact. You did not waste any time with your research. Good for you. Great researcher. Magnificent. The point values for these cards vary a lot. You see from 0 up to 10. The high value people tend to have no effect at the bottom, whereas the lower value ones do have a special effect that can help you do other things over the course of the game. So there's a trade-off in terms of who you are writing about and the bonuses you get from them. Some people have icons that will help you do research in the future. If I paid the cost to research for Sally Ride, I draft her, I get 0 points right now, but I have 2 of these icons that I can use in the future every time I write about someone else. I have to use either both icons or none if I want to get the exact bonus. So if I had a research token with these 3 icons, I could use the 2 from Sally Ride, write about her, put her in my book. Okay, so that's the benefit of getting a character, person like this. You have some cards with an endgame bonus. So Madam C.J. Walker is worth only 1 point now, but at game's end, you get 1 point for every 2 books in all the completed chapters here. So you have a focus now for who you want to write about for the rest of the game. Of course, that depends upon who comes up. Right now, only 1, only 3, none in the person on deck. So possibly not a good choice right now, but you don't know who you will see over the course of the game. Everyone's shuffled, you only see the top card. Some cards have, let's see, bonus action here. If you're not leading 3 points whenever you complete a chapter. So Marie is worth 1 point now. Potentially, you could complete at most 7 more chapters. She could be worth 21 more points, but that depends on whether you're leading or not. So if I drafted, I scored, I get 1 point for writing about her. Right now I'm in the lead, so I might have to just collect tokens, wait for other people to draft and write about people, go ahead, and now finally I can do this. As long as I'm not in first or tied for first, I get those points. There are also some cards that give you a bonus if you're in last. So very specifically last. Everyone else is ahead of you, you're not even tied. 2 points when another player completes a chapter. So you push this up here. Cleopatra, if you're in last, you get 1 point every turn. Very straightforward bonus. So Cleopatra, not worth much when you initially write about her, but potentially worth a lot as a catch-up. Okay, at game's end, 2 points for each chapter worth fewer than 6 points. So now you're looking for, ideally, a bunch of 5-point people. Write about them, and you get bonuses at the end of the game. You have other types of powers. So 3 points when completing a chapter requiring at least 3 speech balloons. The power does not give you a bonus when you write about her initially. It is only for everything that follows. So right now you've got 2 candidates who are possible, depending upon who's on deck. If we put Mary Jane Patterson here, and someone else. So you can often take tokens to hope to work on someone or complete someone immediately as soon as they come in. You can plan for that if you want. If you don't like the research tokens on display, you can use your library card, you flip it, you throw out all the research tokens, and draw 6 new ones. You can do this twice during the game. And then you throw this card away the second time. So you can do that. Now you got other choices. Maybe they were short on icons for someone you were hoping to write about, someone you had on the draft who you definitely want to get out. Okay, you got this to shuffle through the research tokens. You do not have something to shuffle the people who are on display. You have these until someone takes them. Let's show you a few more of the powers. I already showed you those 2. So Sacagawea. Before researching, you may discard a research token. It doesn't say you refill. You normally refill at the end of your turn, but you can throw away a token that someone else is looking for or that has been sitting there and is not helpful to you, and perhaps it'll give you a benefit. So lots of blank ones here. When you draft a chapter, draft another chapter if you have space. So no points, but you can draft, and you're saving an action. So how valuable is that? It's hard to know until you play a few times. Game's end, if your last chapter has a text power. So you have to draft Joan of Arc, do something a little extra. She's only 1 here, but can get you a nice bonus as long as you time things right. Take 2 research tokens when you complete that chapter. So 2 free actions. So 3 points for completing something with 3 books. If you didn't complete 8 chapters, Amelia Earhart did not finish her flight. So there you go. All right, other icons. If you're in last when you complete a chapter, at game's end, points for glasses. Game's end, if any other player scores in-game bonus points. That's a nice one. Depends on the player count, though. More players, it's definitely going to happen. You continue taking turns, round robin, until someone gets 8 chapters. You finish that round. You then score all endgame points and see who has the highest total and wins. If there's a tie, you go back and look at the points only for completed chapters. Anything else you've earned from bonuses doesn't matter. It's only the value of the people themselves in your biography that matter. And at game's end, you can stack all the people here. You want to hide their names. That's how everyone fits nicely in the book. And when it's over, you can take your cards, flip them over, and there is a long biography about each person on the other side, a little shorthand for what they're doing, who they were, when they lived. And there you go. Now you got a book. You read about people. I played HerStory 6 times on our review copy from Underdog Games with all player counts 2 to 5, and the experience varies depending on the player count, as you might expect. With more people at the table, the less likely it is that a particular token or chapter card will make it back to you on your turn. You are trying to be efficient and grab only the research tokens you need and pay for chapters exactly to get that bonus. And so that you don't waste turns grabbing something where you take one light bulb off one token and one book off another token and all the rest of the research is wasted. You want to be efficient with all of your actions. And this is the gamery part of the game where you're trying to match everything up precisely in order to get the bonus and use fewer turns to get things done. But if you grab a token, then someone might take the card. If someone takes the card, someone else will take the token. That's just how it's going to work. And there were many incidences during my games with 4 and 5 people particularly, where someone would take a chapter card and the person right after them would say, I was just about to take that card. But that card had been on the table a couple of times around while they were taking tokens and they just chose not to take the card and then the card is gone. You still have the research to apply to another person, another chapter card, but now maybe it doesn't quite match up. You don't get the exact bonus, or the power of the chapter card doesn't fit with whatever else you're doing. That's just the break sometimes. The contrary thing, when you have fewer people, then those chapter cards cycle out much less frequently, especially in the 2-player game. You kind of get locked because you can't use a library card to cycle through the chapter cards. You have to work with what's there. And if the other player doesn't take something, are you going to take something? Maybe it doesn't make sense with what you're trying to do. And then that space just doesn't change. It's just the same person, the same chapter card, the entire game, because it just doesn't work. And so there are fewer choices available, or fewer choices that make sense, because you may have lots of low value chapter cards with powers that aren't meaningful to you, or that give you bonus icons, but it's late in the game, at which point the icons don't matter. So the spots seem to stagnate more with fewer people, whereas with more people, it's more about trying to grab the chapter cards immediately to fit with whatever strategy you're trying to do. And the strategy is often dictated, I would say often. It's up to you how often the strategy is dictated by the endgame bonuses that you have, because those points, well, the points depend upon what you get. And so you're trying to match everyone together. And sometimes it feels like you get endgame power cards that all lock together nicely like a puzzle. And sometimes you just get one thing and then you just hammer it repeatedly. I had one game where I got a bonus. I forget. It was a bonus, I think, for someone I played had a bonus for cards with no text. And those were typically the high value cards anyway. So if you get that card and then you just get lots of high value people, it's a very straightforward strategy. All it is grab the person with no text, draft them, get the tokens, put them out. There's not as much to it. It's, again, very straightforward. And that's partly why the game works for a wide player age range, is you can play Ticket to Ride style, where you can plan a lot what you're trying to get and try to match things and be efficient, or you just take various actions and see what works out. So the game does exactly what I think the designers want to do. It's giving you a Splendor Century type of experience where you collect resources and then convert them into something else. In this case, chapter cards with the people. I mean, one of the co-designers is Emerson Matsuuchi, who designed Century, and there's a very Century feel to the game in terms of the flow of everything. We're getting the resources and then converting them into special powers and put everything together. So Century and Splendor are kind of the models, it feels, for the game experience that comes here. And then you have the added bonus of the particular people who you might recognize, and you can get more about them. People have been mixed. On this, I want to say it's a bad thing, but it's more, people mentioned they would love to have some short description on the front, something more to look at, because they're tempted during play to pick up the card and read it. And one person specifically said, I just want to stop playing so I can read, because it's distracting, because I want to know who this person is. So it was almost too much for them, where it was a distraction from the gameplay. They just wanted to read. And other people want to read, oh, it's my turn. My turn came around again. Because with few people, the turns just cycle through quickly because the actions are brief. Draft a token, draft a card, pay for something. Boom, 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 do it. The game flows really well. I played this with gamers, and I played it with more casual people at a gaming event. And the people at the gaming event seem to really enjoy it more than the gamers. I think because it does have a light feel. You put things together, you can sort of get a focus for yourself for what you're trying to do, and you complete something. You get part of a book together, and maybe it wasn't quite enough, but you have something here, and then you can find out more about various people throughout history. So it serves that purpose, as it is an educational game, but the education is also separate from the gameplay experience. So you don't feel like it's an educational game while you're playing. You get resources, put out cards, do this, try to win. Oh, and by the way, here's more if you want more. So the designers and publishers have done exactly what they want to do, and it works. It delivers a nice experience for a wide range of players. The two-player game, not quite sure about that, just because of the slow nature of the cycling of chapter cards. That was kind of hit or miss for me, because it seemed like if you got endgame powers that don't matter with what else is out there, and you just don't see that many cards cycle through, and it feels like you're wasting time working on a chapter card, that might not be meaningful. Where with more people, you've got more things cycling through and greater chances of hitting those targets and having everything fit together in a valuable book, in addition to being a meaningful book. There you go. HerStory.